It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Thursday. Gary, how are you?
Jeez, you've got to be kidding me.
Huh?
You see the Politico story out there about Vance's beard?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
These people are absolutely insane.
You know, what's funny is as I was watching the debate live, I was wondering about that. I thought, okay, are they going to try and do the masculinity thing? Or are they going to try and do the comparison to Donald Trump Jr. because he wears a beard, and they're pretty close, JD Vance and Donald Trump Jr. In fact, the word was that Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump really pushed their dad to choose JD Vance. Not sure how true that is, how accurate that is, but they are very, Eric and Donald Jr. are very close to JD Vance and are big fans of JD Vance. So I was wondering, I'm thinking, because you got to find anything and everything to throw at him, I guess, you know. If you have nothing to defend with Tim Walz, you're going to go after JD Vance, which they're going to do anyway.
Here it is from Politico. One of the first bits of nonverbal communication to appear in the debate was on JD Vance's face, his beard. As Politico magazine has noted before, Vance is the first White House wannabe to wear facial hair in 80 years. Our appearance is fundamental to our body language, and research indicates that voters see beards as, surprise, surprise, more masculine. That can be positive to some, reading as strength and competence, but to others, especially women, it can be negative, conveying aggression and opposition to feminist ideals. These people are freaking nuts.
Exactly was my first thought because I was thinking, okay, well, what did they go after? Because there were a lot of people that were live posting on X during the debate, and you were seeing it, and even the liberal activists in the media, you would see, because every website was doing their live updates. So I was getting push notifications on their live updates along the way. So they were, right out of the bat, by the way, Tim Walz looks nervous. JD Vance looks poised. And I thought, okay, but wait for it. And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking the beard has to come in play. And sure enough, they don't disappoint. It's too masculine.
Are you ready for this?
If he shaved his beard for the debate, it would have been, he's trying to appear less than masculine to compare to Tim Walz.
He shaved his beard
to be more like Tim Walz.
To be more effeminate. My God. I mean, they are, the obsession with identity politics is to the point of insanity. Now listen to this. Then there was Walz, who made a series of faces appearing wide-eyed several times throughout the night. However, according to the Politico body language expert, that simply conveyed passion from the Democrat. When Walz felt especially passionate about something, he'd open his eyes wide as saucers. Eye-popping can sometimes be a sign of surprise, but for Walz, it has simply revealed his emotional intensity, like the moment during exchange about abortion. I'm not making this up now. Yeah. I may not be pronouncing these words correctly, these biological parts of the body, but the orbicularis oculi muscle working in concert with the corrugator and the frontalis muscles contract to raise the eyebrows, a dynamic and emphatic facial motion that grabbed the viewer's attention. Early humans would have made such facial gestures to communicate strong emotions like, danger is close.
He was trying to warn the people. Wow.
Regardless of, I'm reading this from Breitbart, regardless of the analysis, it generated mockery, particularly the bit aligning Vance's beard with sexism.
Yeah, get over it. Stop it.
Oh my gosh! It just.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Politico keeps finding more ways to be ridiculous. This is how sick they are, though. I mean, it's like when you have nothing else, attack the beard.
Well, as if there's going to people are going to stop and go, you know what? They're right. You know what? That changes the tone of this election completely. Thank God I have Politico. I guess we should feel less than fortunate because it wasn't Axios. They would have also told us why it mattered.
Well, I'm clean shaven. I've never had a beard.
Yeah. I had about 4 days growth, and it had to come off tonight.
Yeah, actually, I had a week's.
Mm.
I only really have to shave like once a week.
Yeah, if I don't shave once a week, I have a beard.
Yeah, I'm not a hairy guy, but when I think about men with beards, I think that they are the most interesting men in the world.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah, of course.
And I feel like a beer.
Yeah, exactly. I don't always drink coffee, but when I do, it's crappy radio coffee. But it's free.
That's my analysis. JD Vance, because of the beard, is the most interesting man in the world.
Well, it used to be that there was the goatee. Well, you go back to Abe. Abe had the beard, no mustache. There are a few guys that can pull that off. There are a few guys, and I do mean a few, that can pull that off. Then you got the goatee, that kind of thing. And during our era, remember, it makes a man look, especially a goatee, because it wasn't really like popular. It wasn't. You would only see old professors with goatees. And it was like, yeah, they look distinguished. They look like they're not confident in shaving around their face, or, in that part of their face.
The only thing I want to maybe give some credibility to,
All right,
where he talks about beards being offensive to women, is that why hipster men cannot find a woman?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I think it is. I know.
Now, from what I know, most hipsters, I haven't met a conservative hipster yet.
I know somebody who comes off not completely the way he dresses, but the way he carries himself. You might mistake him for a hipster. He's not, and he is a conservative. But he doesn't go around, insisting that he, only gets his music on vinyl. That kind of crap, He doesn't do that.
Yeah, but that guy's simply involved in hipster appropriation.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's a conservative.
Exactly.
That's hipster appropriation. That's bigoted. That's hipsterous.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. This is how desperate they are. This is how what was the other story at Politico? Something to the effect of JD Vance's performance at the debate. Just the headline from it was, I don't know, it wasn't really going after JD Vance necessarily, except it was really trashing the Trump campaign and the fact that it didn't help the Trump campaign, but it sets JD Vance up to be a contender in 28. Okay. This is when you know they've got nothing. Remember, there were those, the DNC was saying, and the then Biden campaign was saying after that horrible night, that he was the winner. I mean, look, you got to get full-on delusional. You got to, he's the winner. And clearly he wasn't the winner. But they did that with Kamala, too, in a big way. The media, she won. We broke it down. We played all the points on the issues, and we asked the question, and we've repeated that question. Where on the issues did she win, and who did she convince? And the polls show the answer is nobody. She convinced no one. And Tim Walz, it was a horrible performance. but it was always going to be because, again, my takeaway wasn't, man, this guy's, a contender for vice president. My takeaway was, man, this guy's actually a current governor.
I know.
And it just makes you wonder how in the world it happens. Now, it's a much bigger stage, of course, than running for governor, but still, you have to convince people. You have to get out there and really be convincing. And he got away with it until you step outside of your blue bubble. We've talked about this. He became governor. He was a member of Congress. He's won elections before. But based on the debate, sorry, man, sorry, dude. It was not good. And the strong indication of that, the strong indicator, is the liberal activists in the media. They don't really have anything to defend him on. You might have heard yesterday, maybe, I didn't see it, doesn't mean it didn't happen. I didn't see a lot of them going, oh, he was clearly the winner. They will throw coins in that direction. Oh, no, he did great. He did fine, blah, 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 and then go after JD Vance. Well, you didn't hear the ticker tape parade type of facade that they tried to build around Kamala Harris after that debate night with Donald Trump. Again, they will tell you, and you might have some that would agree outside of the liberal group, that Donald Trump isn't the best debater. In fact, I think we've said it. But on the issues, he did what he was supposed to do that night. And he did a better job than he has done in the past in using those 2-minute intervals, those 2-minute segments to go straight for what's going on now in the country, who caused it, putting the blame squarely at her feet, the Biden-Harris administration, and also pointing to his own record. Those are the things, and those are advantages, by the way, that he didn't have in 2016 and didn't have in 2020.
When you look at the Vance debate, you simply ask one question again. What issue did Walz win on?
Right.
What issue did he win on?
Right, yeah.
And there isn't an issue that he won on. It was what I found. Well, we'll get into it here. We'll take a quick break and get back to it because we have so much to talk about today. Here's one. I love this. Harris-Walz rethink media-averse strategy after uneven vice president debate.
Well, there you have it. I mean, one headline at Politico: Tim Walz's missed opportunity in quotes, and that's what you hear. It was not. The fallout yesterday, the day after the debate, was not good. It was not good. And it shows you everything that's wrong. They're averting the media for a reason. And you saw a demonstration of that on the debate stage this week. That's very clear. Everybody gets it as to why they haven't been in the media. Look, their first sit-down interview, remember, she had to bring him along, and we don't even know why. Why would you do that?
Well, because she could never use the excuse that Biden, COVID, and then what America knew, which is why Biden had such low numbers, is because his cognitive ability, she doesn't have that.
Right.
But the problem is, she can't answer any questions. When you look at the public appearance yesterday, I thought that when I went right before I went to sleep is where I saw Jack Smith refiled his indictment, same charges, less evidence, as Jonathan Turley have said. And the interesting thing is Turley said, well, it all comes down to deceit. Because did Donald Trump actually think he lost the election, or did he lose the election? Which means, according to Jack Smith, if Donald Trump really thought he lost the election, he's innocent. If he thought he didn't lose the election, he's guilty. which is just bizarre. I found that interesting, though. I mean, it's fascinating when you look at American history and how it's going to look at it. And I know that it was election interference. That's why they did it. And I wonder how this is going to stick. Well, when I woke up, it doesn't matter what the newspapers are writing. It's what social media is doing.
Right.
And it was it was buried. What the number one thing was Kamala Harris talking about $750 for people who have lost everything because of the hurricane.
Right.
And people were going crazy. Illegal immigrants get this, and Americans get that.
Right.
That's what this election is about.
Yep. It really is. It's reminiscent of the sentiment that they found Wall Street Journal the day after the election in 2016 when they walked through Harlem and just a very simple man on the street kind of approach. Why do you think Hillary lost and Trump won? And the common thread in those answers was she was talking about things in other parts of the world, and he was talking about the problems here at home.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and your air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Make sure your tires are ready to roll through winter with the following maintenance tip. Underinflation is a leading cause of tire failures during winter because when the temperature drops, so does your tire pressure. Check your tire pressure before every trip to ensure they're properly inflated and to get the best footprint and traction on the roads. Conduct daily visual tire inspections to make sure you haven't picked up harmful debris on the road. Find a trustworthy tire service provider today so you'll be ready as the seasons change.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. October 3rd, here we are.
Yeah.
Just a little over a month away.
Yeah, it's crazy. You look at the polls are favoring more and more Trump, especially when you look in the battleground states. There's we looked at a couple of what I believe are outliers in like Pennsylvania, a couple of the other states. But it's interesting to take a look at Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. It was in 2016, about 6 weeks ahead of the election, we started saying, look, something's going on in Pennsylvania. Keep an eye on Pennsylvania. The polls aren't reflecting what we believed was going on in Pennsylvania. And we ended up being right on that. We're not always right. We don't make predictions, but we could tell there was something different happening there than what the polls were reflecting. And I tend to believe that this is part of what we're seeing in the liberal activist media, that they fear now that's what's going on. They either have some inside information on internals from the Harris campaign, or they see, or they know that the pollsters, many of the pollsters that are out there are not accurate. They're just not telling the story, and they have reason to believe that it's looking more and more like Trump is going to win at least a couple of those key states, Great Lakes states, they call them. And if he wins those and Arizona, he wins. We'll see what happens. We don't make predictions, but the polls are favoring him more and more. You and I look at the movement in the polls, and the movement has really been in his direction. And there's nothing between now and November 5th that's going to change that, and we're not far from early voting starting in some places.
It has already.
Yes. Has it?
Yeah.
Okay.
listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. I think it was interesting yesterday because that's what dominated social media. And one thing I wonder, because this is, I think, the election where the mainstream media really doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of what people know. Who was it that was talking about? Who were we talking about the other day? Was bringing up the misinformation again? It was Walz in the debate. Now, I'm trying to think, or was that? Because that was a freedom of speech stuff, right? Where he talked about misinformation,
First Amendment, yeah.
and he was backing up again that the First Amendment doesn't protect misinformation. He goes, because you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's basically the inciting riot laws, things like that. You know, that you deal with, but that's got nothing to do with political speech. Absolutely nothing to do with political speech or any other speech whatsoever. Those are very, very well defined in a very, 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 very small part. Where, tell me when the last person was prosecuted for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really, that's got nothing to do with, we're talking political free speech is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they wish to end. But what was the point I was trying to make on that? Where did you bring that up, or did I bring that up?
You were bringing that up, but it's, where we are now, as we were going into the break talking about the polls changing. I think it will be interesting to watch if there's any further movement for the Trump campaign. The poor performance by Tim Walz helped the Trump campaign. I would have to believe that it would, but then again, if everything's already priced in, I'm not a firm believer that vice presidential debates overall move the needle much. But if you're wondering, okay, who's second in charge if the president, whoever's elected, can't do the job, and if you're tuning in for the first time to learn who those two people are, Tim Walz did not give a good impression, and he did not represent the campaign well at all. This was more than a missed opportunity. The liberals are mad because he didn't go after JD Vance more. Maybe they thought that's what he was going to be, that he was going to be the bulldog for the campaign. But he's not capable of being the bulldog for the campaign because he himself has far too many weaknesses. His lies cannot face the scrutiny. And the whole thing about Tiananmen Square, the knucklehead thing was trending all day on social media.
Yeah, that was
huge.
Huge.
And then it was often coupled with a picture of him with that goofy look on his face. You can't overcome that. That's bad. That is the optics are so bad. It's far less than confident and also far less than competent. And you can't win without those two. You got to have both intact. You have to get out there. This is one thing that JD Vance has done before he became the Veep. Before Tim Walz became the Veep pick, nobody was paying attention to him outside of his state. Nobody. And the Veep stakes started, and then still most people weren't. Shapiro was getting most of the talk. We knew how that was going to go with the anti-Semitism on the left. We knew full well how that was going to go. But JD Vance was everywhere as a surrogate for Trump, which got him to the whole Veep stakes thing and got him on eventually the ticket because he's very clear. And he's already disarmed every argument about him personally. Trying to scandalize anything about him is really futile. It's not going to work because he said it. I did. I did go after Trump. I did, say some things where I disagreed with Trump. And here's why I did it then, and here's what I believe now. We've said all along. Remember when it was the last question going into a commercial break, the vice presidential debate of 2008, and Sarah Palin was asked, do you support cap and trade policy? Oh. And she said, yes. Boom, they cut straight to a commercial. We're like, what? And we said, and then, her defenders were calling us back then. Well, wait a minute. And keep in mind, you and I were possibly the first two to mention her name early that year.
Yes, we
as
were.
a Veep choice for McCain.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to know where her change of heart was. That's the whole thing. So when you look at JD Vance and him criticizing Trump over the years, all right, you got to explain that. That's on you. You've got to show people why you did that then and why you're on board now.
Which he did. And that you would think, because people will accept, and since you have a ton of people right now that voted in 2020, they're considering voting for Trump.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
JD Vance relates to them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when he said that yesterday, and he said that before, look, I was wrong. I bought into the lies. Like Michael Rappaport doing it. And when you break it down, the arguments that are used against Trump, he's a racist because of Charlottesville.
Right.
Which is false.
Right.
Michael Rappaport said, I finally read it.
Yeah.
People like, JD Vance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me actually find out what was said in these other cases.
Right.
The suckers and losers.
Right.
Didn't happen.
Right.
None of this stuff. The major charges of Trump being some kind of racist are all made up.
Yeah.
They don't exist anywhere. They're just made up, and they continue using them. The problem is for the Democrats right now, where we are right now, because I looked at yesterday, as I said, when I woke up or when I went to sleep, it's like, okay, when I wake up, I'll see where Jack Smith has gone on all of this. Mm. And it's the exact same charges with less evidence. So we've already been here before. The American public has already vetted that. And it's back to, okay, what was it? Still with the same charges, it's still official duties.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. I don't think it changes at all what the Supreme Court will look at it. They just wanted to refile something now for election interference. This is the last argument that they want to make. It's the last argument that they believe that they have, but the public has already digested that. That's been vetted already. That's been priced in. That was priced in long ago.
Right. Right.
And when you look at it, what has come out of these prosecutions of Trump is the feeling. What was the feeling about, what was it, like 60% of people believe that it's political in some way?
Yeah.
Well, then at that point, that topic doesn't become an issue anymore.
Right.
And it just doesn't.
Right.
And yesterday, and so when I woke up, I went, I know when I was talking about the free speech, that people they're not looking at newspapers anymore. This may be the first election where the internet is what gets you the win. That was my point on the whole
impact of the media.
Yeah, right. The impact of the media. That's the difference.
Right.
And you and I don't try to blow smoke on anything. We give our opinion on what reality is. That's a tough one to figure out when that point is crossed. The only thing I could say is, when you had Walz yesterday talking about misinformation, when you see where the American public stands right now, where the American public stands on inflation and the border, and defund the police, and on COVID, what happened during COVID, and the censoring, the Hunter Biden laptop, it's acknowledged now by people. We know they did it. We know they did it.
Right.
Nobody debates those things anymore. So when you have that when you look at that and say, what do the polls say? Well, the vast majority of people on the issues agree with Trump, and those issues are not based on misinformation. So the public is able to, with everything, because I'll go on X just like you. You'll go on X at times. Mm-hmm. I'll see somebody who supposedly has the same opinion I have and calls themselves a conservative who's an idiot. Right. And throwing out complete and total lies.
Right.
And it's like, don't be on my side. I don't want you doing that. But they exist and they're there. But the public has been able to decipher and go through the internet maze and come out and say, well, let me check over here. Let me check here. Okay, here's the truth here. The public's been able to do it. And that's why you see the polling on all of these issues out there. And this may be the first election where the mainstream media doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here, too. And I also thought of, look, the debates, you can watch streaming, you don't need cable to see debates. But also, you have to build the interest for people to go to it. One of the things about today's habits in terms of viewing anything or tuning into something is that you have to want to be there. There has to be that demand for that content, including political debates. You look at the decline in the number of pay TV households in the U.S. And in 2019, 84 million. This according to Statista. In 2024, 53.3 million.
Have what?
Pay TV.
Oh, okay. Wow.
In a household.
Wow.
84 million down to 53.3 according to Statista.
Wow.
And that is a massive decline. Keep in mind that decline was tempered between 2020 and 2022, they believe, by COVID, that fewer people were cutting the cord because of COVID because they were at home. They believe it would have been steeper without COVID. And now we're seeing that. We're seeing that steep decline. AT&T, part of the merger between the two mega satellite TV providers, Dish Network being bought for $1 plus the $9.75 billion debt from DirecTV. Part of that was also in that same news cycle on that same day, AT&T selling off their shares, their portion of what they owned in DirecTV. They're getting out of the television content business. I don't know where it goes. I don't know if there's room for one big provider in that realm or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't have that data in front of me, but we know that people are cutting the cord. The point being is that you have to really, the content has to be there, and there's so much you're competing with, where it's not just in front of you on every channel that night and you have no option to go anywhere else. Quite the opposite. You really have to want to be watching the debate to tune in. And that's why the first half of any debate is critical, that you come out and you come out swinging and you hit the points. That's why Biden failed drastically, and we knew he was going to. And I think that's why Tim Walz failed drastically.
I'll have the audio cuts to show where yesterday went, because I thought, okay, where did yesterday go with the Jack Smith stuff? And that doesn't affect people.
Right.
What affects people is the governor of Georgia coming out, outraged. He had to call the White House after only 11 of 90 counties were hit. Yeah. That could flip Georgia itself.
Right.
Kamala Harris coming out and talking about the $750. Immediate reaction going, what are you talking about? Citizens of the United States that have lost everything get $750, and illegal immigrants you're bringing in and they're getting everything taken, housing and everything taken care of. Those are the things that will change an election. We'll get to that coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll have the examples yesterday of what hurt the Harris campaign. By the way, they've blown this whole thing of responding to the hurricane big time.
Oh my gosh!
And politically not understanding. You think about it. When that hurricane's coming and you're in a campaign, you would say to yourself, we need to be out there before Trump gets out there, right? That's what you'd be thinking.
Right.
They seem to be completely unaware of that, completely. Did you see Elon Musk upset? It's like Biden saying, we've got the Starlinks out there now. And it's like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's really, it was Governor Kemp yesterday, and then you had Republican representatives out there saying, where's FEMA? Where's FEMA? And then the story coming out, there isn't enough hurricane money anymore. And then it comes out, okay, how much has been spent on illegal immigration? And it's just, it's a nightmare for the Democrats. We'll get to that coming up.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hey, I want to add something. You were talking last hour. You brought up the point that the media impact and election cycles. And we had started to wonder that over the last few election cycles, actually, how much, and it's a question that pops up in general, but how much the media has an impact. And, that was the point really of me bringing up, because I became curious when you said that. I thought, I want to look and see if there's any number, what the stats are in pay TV. So cable news networks and what and we see the ratings for them. We know the ratings are, even Fox News that dominates, a few million out of 335 million people plus is, the overwhelming majority of people don't watch Fox News. So when you look at the impact of what the media has, it's also how they approach it, but they have to have that reach. And they do have more of a digital presence. But again, the problem with that is your digital presence is measured by demand. It's you can see it. You can see it on YouTube, how many people have watched that video. And it counts every single time. And so it's not like, well, we're here and no one pays attention to the ratings. If you're looking at things, especially on YouTube, and measuring things in the digital world where people go and that demand is very different, and you have to seek out that kind of content, then the impact is also different, because people want, to your dad's point, a lot of people do want to be BS'd. But when we're in the mode that we're in right now, people want the truth. They certainly know when they're being BS'd. And when you're telling them, well, we're going to give people that aren't citizens of this country this. Oh, and by the way, in a crisis, we're only going to give this to you. The handling or mishandling or approach with Hurricane Helene is disastrous. And it shows, as you mentioned last hour, you should be thinking, we got to get out there and we got to, and then politically we got to stay ahead of the Trump campaign. But you have to want to also be out there. You have to be, and in order to want to be out there, you have to be greatly concerned for the people that are going to be impacted. And now Helene, one of the deadliest hurricanes on record, the second deadliest in the last 50 years, I think, is where it is right now, behind Katrina. And how can you not have compassion and say, look, everything has to stop here. We have to do whatever we can to bring help to these individuals. And keep in mind, she's the current vice president. Not only did they not do that, but her president, Biden, is MIA on these things. I mean, just unbelievable. The train derailment in Palestine, a perfect example. And by the way, I was watching the debate the other night on the CBS News YouTube channel. And during the commercial breaks, they show promos for CBS News and their programs and what they're working on. And they have a special coming up on the chemical spill related to Palestine. And I thought, wait a minute, that's not good if you're, and they are a liberal news organization, but that doesn't reflect good on this liberal president who was MIA when that happened.
The point of yesterday is since, because I did see Jason Miller say yesterday, we've won like the last 10 or 11 days in a row, and that's what you want going from September to October if you're in a campaign. You know, what he was using as evidence for that, I don't know.
Right.
Whether he's talking about the internal polling, whether it's just the momentum. What we have said is that what you want in any campaign, you always want the other side on the defensive. And the last time that Trump was on the defensive was after the interview with the black journalists. Mm-hmm. That was it. Mm-hmm. Every single day since, because that's one thing I've done. Okay, who's winning the day? Who's winning the day? Who's winning the day at the end of the day? Not looking by what the mainstream media says, but getting a feel of where everything is on the internet and social media, because that's really driving everything. I believe it's driving everything right now. If it's not, I don't know what is,
right? Because
obviously people are not paying attention to the mainstream media.
Right.
And as you mentioned with Fox News, you know, if they pull in 3 million on a program on a night, if it's not special programming, that's a lot, but that also means that 330-something million Americans aren't watching it. And it's even lower, way lower for, as we know, CNN and MSNBC. So you don't have it. So where are people getting their news? How did they know it? How over the last year, when you look at it and people look at inflation and know why it happens, they look at the border, they know the border isn't secure, and all these issues that favor Trump, that favor the Trump and the Republicans, we believe is because, number one, reality is hit. Because economics says the reality of, you know, what you do every day with your own personal economy has hit. Spending has finally gotten to the point where we see the negative consequences of spending money.
Right.
Now, the Democrats are trying to run from that, saying it's greed and everything else. It's not, and the public has figured that out. They know the danger of spending, even though they'd like more spending.
Right.
They'd like more spending, but nobody wishes to pay more taxes, for it. But at least when you look at the polls, people understand what the reality is of America. The majority of Americans, do on that. So, except for the night after the first debate, or the Harris-Trump debate, where you had across the board, Harris won.
Right.
I give that one a tie because a couple of days later, everybody was saying, well, okay, the pundits, the New York Times headline, the pundits thought she won, but the audience that you're trying to reach may not necessarily be so.
Which is the whole point of a debate.
Right. And so I called that one day I called that one a tie.
Right.
Because I'm trying to be, I don't want to be a partisan on it. So it's okay if she wins a day.
Neutral impact.
She wins a day. But winning a day means that for Trump, if not just the left, but if the right's also hitting him at the same time. Mm-hmm. And when you saw the last time that happened was the black journalists dinner, and it's like, don't try to get into identity politics. Don't argue,
Right.
that way. And he seemed to learn his lesson. He's got JD Vance out there, again, doing doing a lot of the plowing. And he's the one that really goes on. Trump will take some questions, but Trump made the right decision by not going on. And by the way, had a great line. Said it again yesterday. Why won't I go on? Maybe I'll go on if they apologize for basically saying that, calling me a liar about the laptop.
Right.
They were wrong.
Right.
I want an apology from them because they were wrong.
Right.
Well, that's not going to come.
No.
It's not going to come from 60 Minutes. And so, but I don't think we said Trump should not even consider doing 60 Minutes.
Right.
He doesn't need to be in enemy territory at all. If you're going to do it, J.D. Vance. But I think now you can sort of move back even J.D. Vance from that. I think he proved his point there. I think rallies, I think friendly media, and I think effective ads is the way to go at this particular point. And you look at it, the one story out there that, all of a sudden after the debacle last night, that you've got both Harris and Walz now saying, okay, we're going to up the interviews. That's not going to help.
No.
You still got the same problem.
Well, and here's the problem, too, is that then now it's been so long, and they've only done a handful of interviews and no press conference. The question would be, well, why now? Now you look desperate. Why did you wait so long to go into this mode? It should have been all day, every day. Again, you start out on early today at 4 a.m., you come back for today, and then later today, and then you come back to the midday TV shows, and you do the midday TV shows. You do some local news at 5 p.m., you do NBC nightly news, and then you cap off the day with doing the late night talk shows, and you do that as often as you can. And she's done a handful of interviews since we're talking well over 70 days now, and no formal press conference. That looks weird. If you say, oh no, we'll do them now, you look desperate.
And, well, I don't know if they're actually going to do a press conference. I think it's probably more friendly interviews.
No, I don't expect them to do a press conference.
I'd be very surprised if she did that. But for them, even if you have no humanity in you whatsoever, I don't care. Hurricane hits, that's your problem. Deal with it. Even if you think that as a president of the United States, politically, you look at natural disasters and you say, we have to at least have the appearance of caring. And when Trump was the first one out there, that was devastating. Then this could. You look at how close Georgia race is. This is Brian Kemp, governor, yesterday, that he was outraged that he had to call the White House after only 11 out of 90 counties were included in the FEMA disaster declaration.
Wow.
When the first emergency declarations came down, there was only 11 counties in that. A lot of people were outraged, including me, because there was such devastation in up to 90 counties. So we called the White House. We spoke to the president's chief of staff, the FEMA administrator, and said, look, you're sending the signal that you're not paying attention to some of these rural communities.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad. And then with Kamala Harris out there and, yesterday with the $750, immediately there was just reaction. This was, we'll play this coming up following the bottom of the hour because it's a little bit longer audio cut. But Representative Corey Mills was in North Carolina actually trying to rescue people. And he said FEMA is largely MIA because it's diverted resources for immigration resettlement. That's not going to go good just 4.5 weeks from an election.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That's not going to go good at all today. And so when I looked at yesterday, I said, okay, Jack Smith coming out with this, again, same. We knew it was going to be the same thing again, just less evidence. And the media's pounding that. I'm like, that's not hitting anywhere. That's already been vetted with the American public, and you could see it on social media. It had a little bit of run for about an hour or so, then it disappeared. Almost everything politically was on what's going on with the victims and of the hurricane and the federal response, and that FEMA has spent so much money on migrant resettlement, that there's no money left to really give to Americans. That kind of narrative, you can't win.
No, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. You know, there are things right now that are on the plate that aren't the getting into the weeds kind of topics. Even healthcare, when you got into the weeds on healthcare, a lot of people kind of checked out. The idea of getting free healthcare is what they paid attention to. Then you get into the idea, you get into the weeds on it, and it becomes a lot more complicated. What's going on right now, these are not complicated issues. A broken border and inflation, the lack of affordability, also the radical behavior by the left. These are not complicated issues to comprehend. They aren't. And that's why I think this reality of where we are here and now, and I've been saying it for a while, we are at a crossroads. And we make a choice, and on Election Day, we decide we're going to keep putting up with this garbage, which tells me we're never going to end it, or we're going to put a stop to it and say no more.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Managing time is key. Successful owner-operators know that simply running hard is not enough. If it were that easy, anyone could do the job and expect the profits to roll in. It generally pays to slow down. There is a trade-off in higher costs, not to mention the increased risk for driving fast. If driving slower takes time away from you, you could find some of the ways to get it back. Never take time off during the last 2 weeks of the quarter or the last week of the month, when freight typically is abundant. Sometimes it works to your advantage to look for loads that take you through home rather than to home. The latter can interrupt your revenue stream and require additional time to get back up to full speed again. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting when I just wanted to go back, because that's something that we've done every day. Okay, who's won the day? And once in a while we may forget to do it.
Yeah.
But let you know that we're actually paying attention to it every day. And like I said, who I view wins is when you have the one candidate on the defensive. Trump has not been on the defensive. Really, he hasn't been on the defensive since the black journalist interview. That was,
Right.
and he's decided to get into talking identity politics the way that they do. Since then, that hasn't happened, and I think Trump was right not to have another debate. Let me say this though, all right, because the Trump debate thing is over.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to mention Trump with this anymore. But how I've been covering politics now for, I don't know, over 42 years. Talk host for 35, but I was station manager of radio stations, in charge of news departments and everything else. And so it's something that I've covered for the longest time.
Right.
And one of the biggest complaints from Republicans is the Commission on Presidential Debates. Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And finally, the Trump campaign was going to stop this. We're going to have fair debates. We are going to have, and they completely crumbled. The Republicans and the Trump campaign completely crumbled. To have go through the years and years and years and years of that, finally get the Commission on Presidential Debates out of it. Mm-hmm. Let's negotiate it ourselves. And you can make the argument they negotiated it worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I asked the question, Republicans and even the Trump campaign on this, what the hell was wrong with you? Now, it all turned out pretty good. because Biden was so bad, and Harris is so bad, and Walz is so bad. But you can't depend on that. You always negotiate for what's best for you. There should have been a Fox debate.
Yeah.
They should have said, nope, don't have to. Because Trump didn't have to do any debates.
Mm-hmm.
We make it fair. And he could have made the case to the American public. And you see it right now. Harris bringing it up, that's not affecting, the debate thing's not affecting it at all. Did you see Douglas Schoen, from thehill.com, the Democratic pollster? Well, really nothing came out of it yesterday. The only thing that came out of it is there should be another presidential debate. He's worried.
I think they all are.
Yep.
I think all the liberals are.
This is not your safe place. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. This is some interesting audio from yesterday, and this is part of the narrative because I think this week has been a horrible week for the Harris campaign. Their response to the hurricane, the debate, the vice presidential debate, but really everything surrounding the hurricane and the fact that Trump was there first, the fact that, they're basically, it looked like they were following the lead. I told you that when I was, watching something, I think we're at Thursday. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. And I'm watching the news and, here's Trump talking to FEMA. Here's Trump talking to these local officials. And I'm watching going, oh, yeah, wow, he got down there. He was down there pretty quick. Wait a minute. He's not president.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, my gosh. And, and Biden at the beach and, Harris with Hollywood, Hollywood fundraiser.
Yeah.
All of it not good at all. And then everything hitting the fan yesterday when they talked about the $750, for Americans that have lost everything, here because of the flooding of the hurricane. And then you hear from FEMA, Homeland Security, basically, from Mayorkas, well, we're really running out of hurricane money. And it's just infuriating.
Yeah.
That's just so damaging. But here is Representative Corey Mills, who's been on a lot of rescue missions, Afghanistan, and now down trying to rescue Americans and help Americans in North Carolina. Here's part of his interview from Fox News.
We've continued to try and go to at least 5 or 6 different locations, either conducting search and rescue operations to drop SAR, to do health and welfare checks on family members who's gone missing, or even just doing distribution for Starlink systems so that we can get our missing persons report down. Because a lot of this, people just haven't heard from their family members for 2 and 3 and 4 days. We were able to successfully evacuate someone from Bailey, North Carolina to Johnsonville yesterday. 83-year-old man, yesterday was his birthday, was showing signs of heart attack or hypertension. So we were able to medevac him and get him out, but also delivering insulin, oxygen bottles. A lot of people, it's not just food and water and non-perishables, but it's medications that they're short on. So trying to fulfill those needs until the federal government can get up and do what they need to be doing.
So, Congressman, we got cut off a little bit at the top. Are you working with your private organization that you're part of? And what do you see in terms of federal help happening? Tell us the difference.
So that's really where the missing piece is the federal piece. And again, let's go ahead and point out the obvious, which is that FEMA had utilized a large majority of the personnel who should be here taking care of this to be replaced or repurposed, if you will, for immigration resettlement, when we need to be focusing on Americans and what's going on, whether it be in Maui, Palestine, Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, or Tennessee. But I'm actually working with great organizations like Mercury One, charity for Glenn Beck, Universal Air, as well as for Sentinel Foundation and so many others. This is a group project where Americans are coming together to answer the call for Americans when the federal government fails to act.
That's not good.
No, it
you
isn't.
could not get worse news A month before election.
Yeah. You know, everybody, the one thing that people repeat in the month before a presidential election is the October surprise. It's no surprise that this administration is weak in their response. They've turned their backs repeatedly on the American people. And, of course, they were not going to respond because, as I said before, you really have to care. You wouldn't be able to stop me. Most people care. Why they don't, I can't tell you, but they clearly don't. They have great power, and they're doing next to nothing. And that tells you everything. If Biden wanted to do something when it comes to a response, he'd be doing it, Jack, and nobody would tell him otherwise. He doesn't want to. And she doesn't care. Kamala Harris doesn't care. How you can't even see it in terms of the political landscape that we're in, how you can't even see it with those glasses is beyond me. But first and foremost, you're right now in a position of power. Trump is not the president, as you mentioned, but he looks pretty damn presidential and demonstrating that he does care. He is greatly concerned. Because anybody watching this, with few exceptions, we're all concerned about the people that are suffering as a result of Helene and everything that has happened under Biden's watch. And they, time and time again, the botched exit of Afghanistan, another prime example. And he had to be bothered to come back off a vacation. Same thing with Helene. He's on the beach. You couldn't keep me. You tell Secret Service we're getting to the White House right now, and you tell the people that are affected by this hurricane, we're coming. And we're going to bring as much assistance as I can possibly muster, and we're going to work to get them everything we possibly can.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if I was ever president of the United States, I would live at the White House.
Yeah.
I'd be there all the time. You don't take the number of vacations that
Right.
Biden has taken.
Right.
I'd be at because I'd look at my life and go, will my life ever be more important than it is right now? No. And I'm going to be here. I would be at the White House except, traveling and doing things like that, as you have to do. But my residence would be, I wouldn't be taking off every weekend, ever.
Right.
Because that's the ultimate responsibility as commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
I would be so focused. I would be looking at, if I was president of the United States, I would be passionate about the fact that I'm going to be working harder than I'm ever going to be working for 8 years. Remember, I never worked so hard in my life.
Yeah.
But that's how I would view it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be viewing it as, okay, I can take vacations
It's
now.
the job.
Right.
It's what it requires.
Right. When I decided to be president, I'm not going to forget about the optics of it. It's the responsibility that you feel that, no, I got to be at the White House. Something breaks out. I've got to be here.
This is on me if I don't respond.
And why? Because the nation views it. If something happens and they immediately, because that's the thing. Something happens like a tragedy. Boom. I'm talking an hour after I hear, the first damage reports.
Right.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm at the podium for something like that happening.
Yep.
And that's part of the complete unseriousness of Biden and has been of Biden, for the amount of vacation that he has taken. And I know that the president can govern from anywhere. It's not the point. There is imagery backed by substance is extremely important. Imagery not backed by substance is BS.
Well, because here's the thing. If you're not at the White House, you run to a podium and you set it up and you say, we're going to be updating the press, in fact, at least once a day, if not twice a day. We're going to have a press conference. We may not take many questions, but we're going to talk about what we're doing, and then we're going to make every effort to get to these areas that are affected and talk with local leaders about what's going on. You saw that, I don't know how many times. I think, in fact, you saw it without exception on major events with Trump. You would see him at a table with local and state officials. You saw him, and as you point out, he's not president right now.
No.
And you saw him responding to the damage left behind by Helene. These are things that, again, are part of the job, and it starts with being concerned for the people of America. It starts with understanding why it's the job.
You know, it combines three problems that this administration has had. Number one, when she said yesterday $750 for people, most people went, my God, you can't do anything with $750 is meaningless in the situation these people are in.
Right.
So what are they thinking? Inflation.
Yep.
Number two, where's the feds? Where's FEMA? They're not here. That gets back to the other narrative about this administration. They're not prepared for anything.
Yeah.
They're just not, they don't do things right. And number three, sorry, the FEMA money is running out for hurricanes because it's gone to, and the personnel isn't here from FEMA because the personnel and the money have gone from FEMA to resettling migrants.
Right.
Can't win that one. That's about the worst thing. That's why I was laughing yesterday when the media was jumping on the January 6th stuff, because it was like, well, this is a repeat. We've already been here.
Well, it goes beyond excuse making. It shows that you're defiant in the face of being asked for the assistance. Oh, no. We're running short on money. At the very least, politically, even if you were running short on money, you would say we're doing everything within our power every single day, and we won't stop. But you don't hear that. You hear a defiant, hey, we don't have to. Well, Biden, have you ever heard of a phone?
Yeah.
I was on the phone. Yeah, way to be responsible.
Right. More ticked off at a reporter's question than concerned about Americans in horrible trouble.
Exactly. And it runs throughout, the defiance runs throughout this administration. We've been saying it since day one. And then as the cabinet members were seated, it became clear. It's the tone, Jack.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, this is really an incredible moment on MSNBC. They brought in anti-Trump people who they thought would be critical of Trump. They brought in former ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, who was a Trump impeachment witness against Trump in the Ukraine impeachment.
Yeah.
And wait till you hear what he has. You don't want to miss this one coming up following the top of the hour.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, wow. But in the end, you know, because there's things, you know, we've talked about where the Republican Party is going, and they're not moving more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's always been a moderate, which really makes it pretty interesting how, he has been demonized as some radical because he's not a radical. But some of the so-called moderate positions that he is taking or populist positions we disagree with. But this election is not about those individual issues.
No,
it's about
not.
It's about the weaponization of government. End of story. It's about not becoming a banana republic. End of story. And at the minimum, I just want to pause on it.
Yeah,
I want to pause on the economic stuff. We now know that if you go on a wild spending spree and you ring up the deficit and you throw all this money out there, inflation will go up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's limits because of how much we spend. I don't like it. I don't like that the Republican Party has gone more Democrat on economic issues or liberal on economic issues. But the fact is, that's not the big fight this time.
Right. No,
and by the way, even if it was just economic issues, I'd still vote for Trump because the other side I know would be worse. We know by what they wanted to spend after COVID, but we're limited by Republicans.
Well, look, for me, the economy and the border it's like they're a given. Those are always part of the equation. What we're seeing right now with the weaponization of the Department of Justice and lawfare is something that really has greatly been amplified during the Trump era, and it has to come to an end. Without ending that, really everything else fails anyway. If we don't put a stop to that,
everything else fails.
Everything else fails. And that's really where we are.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Man, was I bummed out.
Yeah?
Frank Fritz died.
Yeah.
From American Pickers.
From American Pickers.
You know the good thing is they had, remember when Frank left the show, whatever it was, and people still don't know what it was, they weren't getting along. They made up last year.
Yeah, Frank had suffered from a stroke at one point, and I know that the cast of American Pickers was, they seem to be, on watching them on TV, I know some people in the Quad Cities that know both of the guys, and they say they, seem to be same thing that they are on the show, but they seem to get along during that time. Again, not much is known, or I don't get into the rumor things on when you see the clickbait, this is the real reason he left the show or any of that. I've known people. I have multiple friends that have been on reality TV shows, and sometimes that's actually part of the drama put forth by people that are part of the production. They want people to tune in for the drama. They want to, get the viewer there. But really bummed about Frank, because he really did have that personality that, when you think of what those guys did on American Pickers, it's like, yep, that guy was driven to do that thing, and it was really sad to hear about his death.
Well, it is not true that that Frank left American Pickers because Letitia James was going to go after them for fraud for lowballing anybody in the negotiating process.
Although that could be a possibility today if the show were based in New York.
Right. And a friend of mine met them when they were in outside of Buffalo. A friend of mine met them. In fact, they came in to lunch at the place that he actually works at. Or Mike Wolf did.
Yeah.
Mike. But there was something. I used to watch it a lot as background during the fall. I don't know what it is, but the fall season. In fact, I found out where it's streaming, and I thought to myself, as I'm doing a ton of house cleaning, I'm trying to take care of all my house stuff over the next 6 to 9 months. I got so much to do, but I'm around the house a lot, and doing show prep. And during the fall, I used to love to have that on in the background because there is a great romance about, okay, a couple of guys jumping in a van. Where do we go now? Where do we go now? Now, I realize I really wouldn't want to be involved in the picking part of it because I just don't know when they're in some of these, wooded areas, whatever, and picking through. I'm like, you guys ever see a snake or anything?
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't want to get dirty like that. But I love watching. I am fascinated by people who do things that I would never want to do. But when I watch them do it, I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I often have to put myself in reality, knowing who I am and how I would respond. Have to put myself in that situation. I'm the same. When the small lunch pail that they're looking at has greater structural integrity than the barn it's being stored in, I'm out. I gotta go. But that didn't seem to faze those guys. In fact, it seemed to. Oh, man, that looks like a great pick. That looks like a great place to look. And they were here in North Texas, actually. Went through the area near the town where I graduated high school. And some friends of mine told me, the stories that got into the local media, that they were in the area and they were doing a pick in that area. I don't know whatever came of it. Not sure if it aired on TV or how that worked out. But they went out to a rural area and a barn. Not sure why. I mean, I don't know how far the furthest they ever traveled was, but Texas seems like
Europe.
Pretty good haul. Well, yeah, they went to Europe for specials, but I mean, on a routine basis, I mean, I saw them in, in states where they were halfway across the country from, their business. But it seemed the tone of the show is great because of what you learn about, okay, this was happening with this company and this is why this is a collectible or desirable, or, this is why this is neat. We believe this is desirable, why we want it.
Oh, it was a history lesson.
And then the road trip part of it.
Yeah.
It's, wow, okay, look at that property over there. Look at that barn. I bet we'll find some cool stuff. Or we got a call from so-and-so, and we're going to head that direction.
Or they can't get anything from Danielle, so they just go, let's go down the road and see where we can pick. And they're going down these rural roads. Every time I go down a rural road, part of me goes, all right, where do we stop to do the next pick? It always enters my mind. But the other thing is, it brought to you such a great cross-section of Americans. Yeah. And by doing it, you're like, they all loved the negotiating process. They all did. Everybody, back and forth, and it was fair. And one of the things they did a couple of times, they said, look, we don't know what this is. Mm-hmm. We think it's worth this. And if it's worth a lot more, they'd go back and give them a refund.
Right.
Say, okay, we still made a profit on it.
Right.
And they explained, look, this is, but we need to make this type of profit on it. Everybody understood, but it's like the people, the characters that they met. You realize, I thought to myself whenever I watched that show, I went, this is the reality of the good America that actually exists out there,
Right.
that isn't talked about enough.
Right. Yeah.
And, and the buddy stuff when they be insulting each other back and forth going down the road. That's why, and I think it felt personal to a lot of people when there was some type of falling out, whatever the falling out was. But they made up, I guess, early last year.
Yeah.
And did you see Mike Wolf? He posted, I think it was on, I don't know if it was on Twitter or Instagram, where it's basically him. You could tell it's a hospital bed or whatever. He's holding Frank's hand.
Yeah.
He was there when it ended, Frank.
Yeah.
Or, that he said. So
Yeah.
it was like you wanted them. It was almost like their family. That's wonderful when when a reality show can do that. And
Yeah.
I know they said, well, some of the stuff was set up. Maybe it was, but it was excellent.
Often the editing, they will have something that may look more dramatic than it is because as a result of the editing that they do, just having some limited experience with friends from the reality TV world, Ice Road Truckers, Storage Wars, Trick My Truck. I've got friends that were involved in all those, and the stories are kind of interesting. But when you talk to the people, though, that's what always comes back to me. It is the case, in my experience, having known these individuals on these shows, that they're good people, they're decent people, and I think we've become trained to the drama. I mean, I think, and it's like, okay, now do you want to see? It's like wrestling. Once professional wrestling started to admit that they were fake. Hey, we got a storyline. We got these characters. Okay, great. Now everybody's into the let's see what they can come up with thing.
Right.
And so I think people bought into the drama of reality TV and still do to some extent and understand, yeah, that's more the producers than the people that are involved.
The one thing was the tremendous amount of history lessons you got from watching that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just the history of, Indian motorcycles.
Oh, yeah.
For example. And then looking at, I'll never forget watching it with my dad, and they were looking at old bicycles, and my father was a bicycle racer, and bikes from like the 1920s or even earlier than that. He was fascinated by it. And then just all the, the things that they would find, the toys and when they get all excited about, a motorcycle, and it's like, I got to have this. And then the other one would start talking. And, Frank would be going, I don't know. Mike's taking a risk on this one. Come on. 13,000 for this? I don't know. And it made it fun and a little bit of drama. Okay, what will the final negotiating price be? And then when they didn't get it, when they couldn't negotiate, they still shook hands and said, it was, great seeing all your stuff. But they talked about how they're wasting their time if they can't buy anything.
Yeah.
They got to buy. They got to buy stuff.
If the seller doesn't really want to sell, it's like, okay, well, then there's no purpose for us being here.
And then you would see the number of times where the guy was the hoarder and the wife's like, call American Pickers, get them in here. We got to get rid of this stuff.
I had a friend who was collecting a number of things over the years. And it was all the things that were, the hot items. I'm assuming he collected a bunch of Pokemon things, but all the Beanie Baby things and all of that. And you wouldn't expect him to be the guy because it seemed like a lot of that stuff was geared towards certain nerds, right? And not this friend of mine. But Joe had a collection of everything. He had all these different collections and rooms, no kids, rooms filled with these things. And it turns out it was a huge investment and a huge payoff. I was told that he cashed out a lot of it as he got closer to retirement because he was worried about being able to store it properly. Not that he wanted the money, but he realized, okay, if I can't preserve it properly, then this collection is worthless when it's going to mean something to somebody if there's still a market for it. And he cashed out in a big, big way. And you would, if you went into his place, you would think hoarder until you started looking at how it was organized. And it was fascinating. I've never been a collector. That's another thing. I would look around at these things and go, wow, that's cool. That's neat. That's neat. And I would love to learn more about those things. But then when it came to do the deed and buy things, it would be, no thanks. It's just, I'm just not a collector.
Same with me.
You know, when Joe DiMaggio passed away, we were actually at Disney World with our kids. Our kids were young. And there was this portrait of Joe DiMaggio at the plate in the stadium. And it was for sale at this sports restaurant in Disney World. With our company discount at the time, we used to work for Disney. We were owned by Disney at the time. I actually would have gotten I was told I would have gotten a discount on it if I wanted to buy it. And I told my wife, I said, this is a great collectible if you're a sports person. I said, and I hear Joe DiMaggio, this would, and it's, it sounds morbid, but when someone passes away of that, that kind of fame, then all their collectibles just, go through the roof investment-wise. The next morning, we were at Disney World, had the radio on as we're getting ready to go out to the park. Joe DiMaggio's passed away. I didn't buy the portrait. I'm just not a collector.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't have done it to make money again because I just don't. It's not who I am. I just don't do the collector thing. I have a couple of collectible things that were given to me, but not because I sought them out.
I loved when they would spot a gas station sign or an oil sign.
Oh, yeah.
And the excitement.
Yeah, those signs are cool.
And it'd be like, even if it was worn out, they go, oh, no, collectors want this. And I go, really?
Yeah.
But it's rusted and stuff. Doesn't matter.
Oh, no, yeah.
And the fact is, no. You don't refurbish it. You want it looking like this.
You leave, yeah.
And it's like,
people
really?
will go out of their way to patina certain things to make them look older, while the older things you leave alone. Don't clean it up.
Well, he died with the great legacy of that show, and the show was never the same when he was gone.
No,
it just wasn't.
It wasn't.
I'm not saying it wasn't good. It just wasn't the same.
Yeah, it was a great partnership they had on that show.
Yeah,
it really was.
The buddy partnership and the imagery of that could not be beat. So rest in peace, Frank Fritz.
Mm-hmm.
That's just too bad. Just 60 years old.
Yeah, yeah, very sad.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Well, look at this here. This is from Frank Luntz has this here, the pollster. Kamala Harris's campaign strategy of barely taking questions from reporters is backfiring badly when it comes to winning over undecided voters. Are you ready for this? 45% of voters who are not fully committed to either candidate cannot name one Harris policy.
Yep. No surprise. No shock.
But they know Trump.
Yep.
That's a problem.
Exactly what we've been saying. He is a known quantity to those who, few people, and I really believe it's very few, that aren't committed yet. She's not. But I think beyond that, they also know she's avoiding talking to the media for a reason. They know that there's a reason they don't know her policies. And they also find it strange. We're not talking about like a congressional district in a state we don't live in. We're not talking about, even with, years ago, the race for governor in Virginia with McAuliffe. We're not even talking, which made the national news, but we're not even talking about that. We're talking about a sitting vice president who, think about how the news cycle works, whose president, her boss, was forced out of the race by his own party, and she became the nominee. There is every reason that you should know everything about where she stands, and she runs from the media. That is beyond weird. But we're now we're at October 3rd here. We're well into this, and we're far too into it for her to make up any ground, in my opinion. I don't see how in the world she would be able to do that.
That comes, by the way, that Frank Luntz relating to the Echelon Insights poll that was done on those that are uncommitted. But 45% of those that have not chosen either candidate cannot tell you one Harris policy. Well, people need to understand, too, that, that not all people pay attention to what goes on in politics.
Right.
They just don't. I think, too, you look at the numbers. They say the numbers, were down from Trump and Biden,
mm-hmm.
Or not Trump and Biden, from
Kamala and Trump?
No. Well, I'll tell you what coming up next.
Okay.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, what I meant to say is that the vice presidential debate the other night had a lot less audience than the vice presidential debate from 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I think one of the reasons, I think it's the Maureen Dowd syndrome. I think it's Democrats.
Yeah.
I think Democrats are embarrassed by their candidates, really don't want to hear them. And they know they're weak. They hate Trump, but they know they're weak.
Yeah.
But
right.
I think it's, as Maureen Dowd said, that her friends, when they hear stuff, her liberal friends, she said this a couple of years ago, just go and they just don't watch anything. They just turn everything off.
Right.
I think that may be the syndrome going on now. I want to play this audio cut that we promised to you. This is an audio cut from MSNBC yesterday. Mm-hmm. This is mind-boggling. Mm. MSNBC invited one of the Trump impeachment witnesses who believe that Trump should not be running should be impeached, should not be president, back a few years ago.
Right.
He was one of the prosecution's witnesses, former ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland. Here is this from yesterday.
Under the Biden-Harris policies. And I have to say that...
Let me go from the beginning again.
A no for you after that. Why was it important for you to say no more Trump because of his January 6th conduct? And do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by it, and I'll tell you why. I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies, and I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well.
So when you
and
Ambassador, I'll let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th.
I did.
And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. That is how badly the Biden-Harris team have prosecuted their job.
But the whole point you seem to be making was that January 6th and that kind of attack on democracy is bigger than any policy difference.
I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
So I want to ask Sarah. If here we are,
he moved on.
Yeah.
Didn't want to continue the
Didn't
argument.
want to talk about it.
It's on MSNBC.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's but that, again, one more indicator, because this isn't a person that you would describe, I was telling you during the break, as a never Trumper. A never Trumper we can quantify. These are people who, many of them claim to be conservative, and then you can tell that now the way that they debate that they may have never been conservative, and they certainly aren't now. Not all, but a number of them. This goes beyond a never Trumper. If you're testifying at his impeachment hearing against him, it goes far beyond that, and there has been that massive 180 for him after living under the Biden-Harris administration. That's a huge deal, and it's not the first time we've heard this kind of conversion, turnaround, whatever you want to call it. But Michael Rappaport, the actor, but Barry Weiss, the way that she wrote, this is former New York Times reporter, and I believe she is a true journalist, and looked at things and started as a part of the Twitter files, but also looked at other things along the way. And she has said, in fact, she's written, I was wrong about Trump, or Trump was right. And it's not that you're seeing, oh my gosh, they're going to all start wearing MAGA hats tomorrow, but they understand that this is a very clear choice about the direction of the nation. And that's what it comes down to, which is something you and I have been talking about for years. I don't have to like the person. I don't know the person. What I have to do is trust. What I have to be able to do is trust that they're going to implement the policies that I believe best serve this nation.
If Trump wins, it's not going to be nirvana in Washington.
No.
There's going to be Republican infighting like you've never seen before, especially if they have the Senate and the administration.
Yeah.
If the Trump administration wants to spend a ton of money, you're going to have, that's when I believe you're going to have there's no excuse now from those members, conservative members of the House, that say we have to stop spending.
Right.
And, one of the criticisms of the debate last night was, who's more fiscally liberal? It seems like they're all in agreement that big government is the way to go, and more government control of business is the way to go. Whether you do it through regulation or tariffs, whatever, it's still big government attempting to control it. That's what you've heard from conservatives about the debate last night. I've said, though, those are all, look, when Trump becomes if Trump becomes president, we're going to have disagreements, especially on fiscal matters. And the Republican Party is going to have massive differences of opinion. There could be a big split in the Republican Party based on the debt, which is not even a topic of conversation at all in this administration, or excuse me, in this, not administration, in this election season, when, I don't know, did the final debt come out? They got to release it here in the next couple of days, because October 1st, the fiscal year has finished.
I didn't see it yet, but
It passed $1 trillion. They expect it to be close to $1.2 trillion, not the debt, just the interest on the debt.
The interest on the debt.
The interest on the debt alone, they projected to be $1.2 trillion, which means you got to pay that every year, and that money goes to help zero Americans. It helps to do nothing.
Right.
Because it's just interest that has to be paid. And so it keeps going up and up and up and up. And so it's not going to be smooth sailing if Trump wins, but that's not the point on the domestic issues. The point is stopping the weaponization of government, the lawfare, the prosecution of political opponents, not becoming a banana republic. There needs to be, at the minimum, a pause on that. I saw, I was telling you, Andrew McCarthy in National Review was talking about the fact that of the Jack Smith, refiling the same charges and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, getting in a bunch of different discussions. He would not vote. We know Andrew McCarthy, who wrote Ball of Collusion, which was everything of the Russian hoax, that he won't vote for Trump. But he said something. He said, because he doesn't like Trump at all. And he said, any other candidate right now would be up by 10 points. I don't think that's true. I don't think that is true. I think everything over the last 9 months has changed. I think what Trump's advantage is he was in office. Any other Republican that comes in can't say, here's what I did. It was better under me. He can do that. And also he is viewed as a victim of the weaponization of government. Mm-hmm. Those two things, DeSantis couldn't do that.
Nope.
He could not. He couldn't reflect. He could say, in Florida, I've done this. Trump can go back and say, I did this. And so that's where I disagree with Andrew McCarthy.
Well, in the reality that is the number of massive issues that are on the plate right now, Trump is the only candidate that has been president in reality, the most recent, in fact, before Biden. And that is a total game changer. And I think it was the key, one of the main keys to him being successful in the primary season. I said, in fact, once he announced in November of 22 that he was getting in, he was gonna run again. I really don't know why anybody else would get back in. And keep in mind where we were in November of 2022. You still had a significant number of Republicans that were not on board. All that started to change, but even then, you could look at it and say his base has never wavered, and nobody else can walk into the primary in the Republican Party with that base built in. Nobody, and that was proven to be true.
Because what happens if it's any other Republican, it's all hypothetical about what they could do.
Exactly.
With Trump, it's not a hypothetical.
It's not
in
the abstract.
Minds.
It's
right.
not the abstract.
Right.
The abstract issues. Well, this is in terms of which Republican would have been best, or the primary. It's all of them basically would say, if I were ever president. Well, he's already been there and he's done that, and it's in fact again the most recent president before Biden, and also the immediate change. There is the immediate contrast. It's not like saying, well, I was president, several years ago, go back a few terms or whatever, and I was president then, and then so much has changed between. Well, no, there was the contrast of Trump, Biden, Harris, back to back. Those back-to-back contrasts right there tell everybody what they need to know. Now, I'll say this. A number of things have changed in that the problems have become so big, that's going to be another task. Whoever has to clean up Biden and the Biden-Harris mess
may not be able to do it in 4 years.
May not be able to get that done in 4 years. And that's a problem. That's why you look for the future of the party in your V pick. And I think JD Vance has proven to be that. Whether they win or not, I think he is going to be part of the future of the Republican Party. We'll see where that goes. But if Trump and Vance win, 4 years, you're going to have to do double time in order to make up any measurable lost ground here during the Biden years. And that's a problem. It's why I really believe that there's a number of Democrats that are out there, and they look at it as, well, you know what? Worst case scenario, Trump wins. We get a bad guy for 4 years to throw everything at. We go at him after he's done in that 4 years, but we come back in 28, and we basically, with a clean slate and the Biden years behind us, we come back at it in 28 with a new approach. I don't know what that new approach is, but I think that's how some of them are thinking.
That's something to talk about, and we will. 866-98 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. You know, that's an interesting thing when we look at where the left is going. If Trump wins and you say, okay, what happens over the next 4 years? And our Democrats looking at it and saying, okay, let Trump win this one. He can't clean up the mess we made, and then we'll be back in power. Well, does that mean they're not going to change their opinion on anything? They're going to become more radical? Because they have not. It was 2018 where I said they've got to eventually shift their positions. They can't hold on to these positions.
Right.
And that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've actually gone way further left.
Yeah.
And if they lose this election, that will be, and depending on how they lose it too, I mean, that would be the first key. We know that they know, because the reason they know that issues are a problem for them. That's why Kamaga has co-opted so many of the major Trump opinions on the issues.
Right.
Think about it. Think about with everything that went on over the border.
Yeah.
Everything. For Harris to come out and say, I'm going to be tougher on the border than Trump is ludicrous, and everybody knows it. But we know she doesn't mean it.
Right. No.
And we know that she's not pro-fracking. We know it. And so they're lying, and this is why we mentioned the, Simone Sanders, who worked, I believe, in the Biden administration, said, why would, Walz basically saying, I agree with Vance, I agree with Trump. Why would we vote for them? The left, we said, was never. They were always very, very skeptical of Harris embracing the major MAGA issues out there that they were demonizing.
Yep.
You look, part of the reason I saw it in the Fox focus group. The Fox focus, they talked to a Democrat. Oh, no, it's got to be Walz. I listened to JD Vance, and he blamed illegal immigrations. That's just like, Nazi Germany.
Yeah, right.
Which is like, stop it. It's well, then are you upset that she's going to be tougher on the border?
Right. You can't have it both ways.
Right. It's just,
yeah,
that's
insane.
the problem.
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi. Good morning.
Hello.
All right, this fits perfectly what I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, because just got my brand new driver's license the other day. I got a new passport, renewed my passport, and got TSA pre-check.
Still has that new license smell.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The only thing is, my last picture was taken in 2012.
Wow.
And I had to take a new picture now.
Yeah. Yikes. By the way, have you noticed, too, that the what are they using for a flash? Because it's totally different. The lighting is totally different.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
You were supposed to go the opposite direction, Texas DMV.
Well, you know,
Not like back to, I mean, it looks like somebody is using so many flash pods on the pictures.
you know what I had to do with everybody, though? Because I've always listed my hair as brown.
Mm-hmm.
And for the passport, I said, I said, it's more gray than brown now.
Mm.
And she goes, it's okay. My license, too, I said, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. I don't know what my hair color is. It's been brown, and I believe, and she goes, salt and pepper.
Is that a category? Did they put that on the license?
No, it's not a category.
Yeah.
It's not a category. She goes, okay, gray is all right.
Well, all right.
And so I'm just like, okay.
Like my dad has been completely silver since his mid-50s. My hair's still brown. And the picture is so badly lit on my new license, it looks like a black and white photo. It doesn't look like a color photo at all.
No, it doesn't. No, that's a great point.
It might not be a color photo. Where's my wallet?
Maybe it's not a photo. Maybe it's an X-ray.
Are you looking at my brain? Do you see anything wrong? No, it's black and white.
It is black and white.
That's not a color photo.
It is black and white.
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't
even notice that.
Look, if the budget is that bad in Texas, Governor Abbott, we need to talk. We'll just go back to black and white photos.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Why? Why is that?
I don't know. They don't have my... Okay, they don't have the hair color on the actual license, so.
They don't?
No.
Underweight? Mine says OMG. Why'd they do that?
All I have is height, sex, and I put no. And
yeah, of course.
And eyes blue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what on the application it says what's your height, and I said this tall. They said no, Nimrod.
But the reason was I was talking about the fact of why people get upset.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see here from yesterday, in a new heavily redacted report, the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General found that several federal agencies did not fully assess the risks associated with releasing non-citizens without identification into the United States and allowing them to travel on domestic flights. The Inspector General said in a report that U.S. Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Transportation Security Administration failed to ensure that high-risk non-citizens without ID are not entering the country and boarding domestic flights. So not just boarding domestic flights, but they don't have any identification.
Wow.
So you're an American citizen, and that's what I said, you know, with going, it was in September when I went through, well, August and September, to get a new license.
And TSA pre-check.
Renew
too.
my passport and a TSA pre-check. And I mean, fingerprints, birth certificates.
You should have just flown to Mexico and walked across the border. That would have happened sooner.
Fingerprints, birth certificate, old passport, old license. I brought just for the heck of it because they said you might want to just for a backup bring a utility bill in the last month. Don't make it 2 or 3 months ago. Got to be in the last month to show that you haven't moved anywhere. I mean, they want me. I've got an electronic trail. I mean, I think I got my Social Security card. Oh, I remember we were kids when we got our Social Security card, 8 or 9. So for 60 years, there's been an electronic trail on me in the United States, and I've got to bring every type of damn, and it's okay. I mean, I understand. I understand after 9/11. Got to prove it. But I've got to jump through hoops. Everybody's got to jump through hoops. You come in. They have no idea who you are. Go on in. Come on in.
No ID required.
No ID required.
Oh, by the way, make sure you vote in California.
Right. Get on a plane. Go ahead. And you wonder why people are angry. And then I saw, like, it was on the Fox, but they had Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, so it really was meaningless. I don't know why they did that, because the debates aren't about that. It doesn't matter. You're not going to change a Democrat mind now or a Republican mind.
Right.
You know, and that you're talking about the very few independents, which is why that's what you need to focus on, which is what Frank Luntz did. And they could end up 12-2 at the end that Vance won, and only 5 were leaning towards Trump. At that, you know, but I mean, lean towards Trump, and Vance won 12-2. So, but you see all the, and she was talking to one person. Well, why wouldn't you vote for Trump now, based on what Harris said? Well, because the way he talks about illegal immigrants, he blames them all, and he said specifically, I don't blame anybody coming to this country to get a better job, to get a better life for themselves.
Right.
I blame the government for not enforcing the rules and regulations in the law.
Right.
Well, her interpretation was, probably to my complaint, I've got to prove who I am, and they don't have to prove who they are, and they get to come into the country because the country's afraid that I'm going to be a security risk, or you're going to be a security risk, or Tulsi Gabbard's going to be a security risk, and they're just flying people in with no identification, not vetting them at all, and I'm the risk?
Yeah.
And if I can't do precisely what they want and prove without question with a 60-year electronic, electronic history with the government, they know everything about me if they want to know it.
And heaven help you if you use the wrong pronoun.
Exactly. And so that's what you wonder, why people are ticked off. And then she's like, well, I can't vote for Trump because he's talking, they're talking like Adolf Hitler with the Jews. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We're simply saying that we have a legal immigration system which we should be using to bring people into the country where they're vetted properly. Because you're vetting me every damn day. You're vetting every American. And you're saying, oh, we don't vet people that from outside the country. They can all come in. It's no big deal.
Right.
It was the same, with the COVID. Oh, you got to travel. You're an American citizen. Okay. Remember New York? The reason that I couldn't go back, even, when my mom died, I couldn't go back because everything was shut down. That was right when COVID started.
Right.
But even further down the line, New York had the rule that you had to have proof of vaccination when you landed, but then you had to quarantine for like 3 days and then get an appointment to get a shot. Well, you're in the damn state 5 days before you can even do anything.
Right.
And it's like, I didn't have the time to do that. So I didn't get back. I didn't get back to see my dad for over 13 months, almost exactly 13 months.
Wow.
And people were coming across the border, and they could have cared less. They could have cared less about the COVID. They didn't give a damn if Americans got COVID. That was, otherwise they would have closed the border.
They either didn't care or they didn't believe the
Right.
science.
One or the other. Yeah.
Right. And they Democrats demonstrated that over and over again. Governor Newsom.
And so we're simply saying, if you're going to put these standards on the American citizens to every single day and every single year, when most of us have electronic histories that make it easy for the government to know that we're American citizens, and you still throw us through, jump through this hoop, crawl over this obstacle course to get it. We need to make sure the country is secure. Hey, everybody from all over the world, come on in. No ID, no vetting is necessary. Are you kidding me? For a Democrat to hold that opinion is pure insanity. Oh, you're treating illegals like they're just like the Jews, and so you're like Hitler. Shut up.
Yeah, it really is. It's far beyond the insanity level. People see this every single day. This is in terms of our daily lives, this is the greatest political reality moment of my life, where the reality is hitting over and over and over and over again. Now, we had massive inflation, late 70s. I wasn't a voter yet, but I was well aware of it. And we had a number of problems going on, no doubt. But you look at what we have on our plate right now with inflation, the broken border, the radical left protesting in favor of terrorism.
And we'll get to that following the bottom of the hour. Biden telling Israel how to respond.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get together with other nations, and
When
we'll
I saw that,
we'll tell you how to respond.
When I saw that, who the hell are you?
Just amazing.
You don't get a say-so in it.
No, you need to let the Iranians, who we know are the biggest exporters of terrorism, and when they know what they just did to you, 180 ballistic missiles fired at Israel. No, you need to let them continuing their weaponization of nuclear power.
Yeah, you need to put your weapons down. Right. You're the problem, Israel. Wow.
Just amazing. I couldn't have imagined that you would have a party that would be so anti-American and pro-terrorism. And the Jewish hatred that you see. And that's where you know, we're going to defend Israel. Wait a minute, you can't do this. We're going to tell you what to do. That's where the anti-Semitism comes in. We're not going to let you actually win and be a secure country.
No.
We have no interest in doing that.
Nope.
In fact, Trump put on these sanctions to make that oil money not available to them. Okay, let's open that up.
Right. The only border they're worried about protecting is Ukraine's.
Yeah. Just amazing.
It's the reality that we're in right now. And if you can't see it, it's not because you're wearing blinders. It's because you're going out of your way to shelter yourself from it. I don't know how in the world you can't be aware of it.
And they can't justify it. They can't make any sense of it. They can't explain it. They just do it.
Yeah.
They can't tell you how it's in the best interest of the United States security. Remember all the stuff they said. Don't. If you do this, severe consequences.
Yeah.
Soon as it happens, they tell Israel, no severe consequences here.
Right.
You need to be just in the defensive mode, basically.
Exactly. Sit there and take it. Yep. Lay down.
Insanity. Pure insanity.
That's Joe Biden for you. That's the Democratic Party for you.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Harley Radio. He's Eric. I'm Gary. Just reading here from the Wall Street Journal. Iran opens a door to retaliation. This is Iran's second missile barrage since April, and no country can let this become a new normal. Israel reported a few civilians injured, and one Palestinian may have been killed near Jericho in the attack. A terrorist shooting, possibly coordinated, killed 6 Israelis. The work by the U.S. and Israel to shoot down most of the missiles was spectacular, but it shouldn't have to be, and next time it might not be. After April's attack, the Biden administration pressured Israel for a token response, and President Biden said Israel should take the win since there was no great harm to Israel. Israel's restraint now has yielded this escalation, and it is under no obligation to restrain its retaliation this time. Netanyahu hinted at a stronger response in a statement to the Israelis. Iran make a big mistake tonight. They'll pay it. They'll pay for it. Does Mr. Biden understand Iran's act of war is an opening to do considerable damage to the regime's missile program, drone plants, and nuclear sites? This is a test for a president who has been unwilling to even enforce oil sanctions against Iran. It is also a chance to restore at least a measure of U.S. deterrence that has vanished during his presidency. Before the attack, the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin warned Iran of severe consequences. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan reiterated the pledge after the missile barrage. Having issued such a warning, Mr. Biden has an obligation to follow through or further erode U.S. credibility. If there were ever cause to target Iran's nuclear facilities, this is it. Iran has shown that it might well use a bomb if it's acquired, and Iran would certainly use it as a deterrent cover for conventional and terrorist attacks on Israel. Sunni Arab states and perhaps the U.S., Iran is closer than ever to a nuclear weapon and won't stop itself. The question for American and Israeli leaders is, if not now, when?
Yep. Yeah,
and it's true.
It really is, and I think it's clear that Israel knows this.
Now, this was written on the 1st, before Biden came out and said no, without even talking to Netanyahu, no, when asked about nuclear response. We're going to meet with other leaders, world leaders, and then basically tell them what we want Netanyahu to do.
Yeah. No.
Nope.
Sorry.
Nope.
That's not going to work. That's not going to work.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Not a good week. The Democrats, the response to the hurricane has been just abysmal, and continues to be abysmal, not helping them at all. We went through all the different points on that one. The debate didn't help at all.
No,
with Walz. And the other thing that this started here with, first with Walz, where they wanted to make him, the new type of, testosterone-laden Democrat male man who has camouflage and carries a gun and wears the hunting hat. And just a month later, it became, no, he's the new non-testosterone kind of man, a new role model, a new type of masculinity that exists out there. And then they applied that, just a couple of days ago to Harris's husband.
Yeah, Doug Emhoff.
Yep. And that just blew up in their faces over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely blew up in their faces. The Daily Mail UK coming out with the story that Emhoff is accused of assaulting his ex-girlfriend, who apparently was his girlfriend at the time, back in 2012, and and basically was drunk when he did it. 3 different witnesses have come forward for that one.
Wow.
And so what you saw yesterday was the woman's always right from conservatives to Democrats.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear any pushback at all.
No.
There was no pushback on that story at all.
No.
And then it came that he paid $80,000 in hush money, too.
Wow.
And they're the ones that he's being promoted. And then again, when they're out there promoting the fact this came from the Jen Psaki interview, but you're a new type.
Yeah.
You're a new refreshing type of masculinity out there. And it's like, he cheated on his first wife with the nanny. And then this thing here, that just blew up in their faces. There isn't anything, when you think about it, Eric, there isn't anything that they've done right.
No, I mean, politically, look, your past is always going to haunt you. Your family's past is going to haunt you. But let's start with the basics. It's mind-boggling how they don't read the room ever. How is it that there's nobody? This is why I really believe I'm right on this. It's like the Democratic National Committee handed the Harris campaign the keys and said, "Hey, lock up when you're done. We're going home." We don't, because I don't for the life of me know how a sitting vice president has nobody inside the Beltway, nobody in the Democratic Party that can steer her in the right direction. Look, you can't run away from, and we said it back when Biden was in, the Democrats can't fix the problem because they caused the problems. But we're talking about other very simple things, simple parts of a campaign that are a given. They are almost second nature, like the response to a massive hurricane. How do you not get that right? How are so many things wrong? It tells me I'm not far off on this whole Democratic National Committee handing them the keys, saying lock up when you're done, because of the way that it went down. First forcing Biden out, Biden then endorsing her in his letter announcing he was stepping down, which forces the hand of everybody else in the party to, well, what are we going to do? Because we already forced him out. That looks bad enough. Everybody knows we're forcing him out. So if we go against his endorsement, and then Nancy trying to say, oh, well, there was a primary. Nobody else jumped in. Shut up. It was setting up this facade built of nothing, including no support. The emptiness of this campaign, the nothingness of this campaign is clear to us, but if you look behind the facade, you will see no support from the party. It doesn't shock me that they have nobody helping her. Everybody's saying, well, the Obamas and blah, 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 blah. Nope. They were all going to smile. Remember, it took the Obamas a few days to jump on. And then they got to the convention, and everybody was like, okay, guess we're doing this. It's her time? ? It's clear to me that they don't have anybody that knows the old playbook. Gary, you and I know the old playbook.
Yeah.
Because we've been covering it for years, and they can't get the fundamentals right of a campaign, a presidential campaign. They can't get it right. It's weird until you understand how she got here. She's not supposed to be here. She's not here for a reason. She got to the point of becoming the nominee without one voter saying so. And that's why. They don't have any direction because there's nobody that wants to participate with any knowledge that's going to give them help. There's nobody that wants to be a part of this. I don't think I'm far off with the Democratic National Convention kind of separating themselves. I mean, technically, yeah, they're there, but not really. I really think I'm pretty close on that. And I think history, somebody's going to write the book. Somebody will write the book. If she loses, don't write the book in November.
Well, when you look at what's happening right now in the United States, the Republicans have become the moderate party. The Republicans have moved further left than they were.
Yes.
20, 30 years ago.
Right.
And the Democrats have moved insane to the left, to the insane left. I'm looking at right here. Democrat House candidate says women aren't worried about transgender athletes in their sports locker rooms. Sue Altman, who is running for New Jersey's 7th congressional district, told the New York Post that she and others in women's locker rooms are not worried about the presence of males in women's sports. As someone who's been working, listen to this here. Listen, I mean, women have to hear this and go, "You're crazy." As someone who's been working to advocate for women's rights in women's sports, I promise you that in the locker room of women's sports teams, we're not worried about this. We've been worried about getting equal access to gyms, gym time, good referees, good trainers, so you don't get injured, a fair shake at scholarships, and equal pay at higher levels. Her argument defeats what she just said.
Yeah.
This is how insane. Nothing.
She's arguing for and against Title IX at the same time.
Yes.
That's bizarre. And doesn't get it. There's zero self-awareness there.
And I don't see, if Trump wins, I don't see where the Democrats go. You know that by Harris pretending that she agrees with Trump and is tougher on Trump than on the border and will be more of a capitalist than Trump and believes more in our country's fossil fuels than Trump, everyone knows is a lie just to get elected. It is the obvious that they know they can't win on the issues. Well, and this is what if Trump wins in the election, do you think that any Democrat, or there will be is there a growing number of Democrats in Congress that are saying, have you heard one Democrat in Congress say she's absolutely right about fracking?
No.
And we've got to use all the energy that we can get from the ground.
Well, it's telling because one of her surrogates, in answering the question, started by saying, well, remember, she grew up in a middle-class family. And number two, she believes that babies shouldn't have drills. When it comes to drill, baby, drill, we think that it should be adults only. They know nothing about this. They know nothing about the topic. They know nothing about because it's fake. And this is part of the reason that she really can't get in front of the media in a meaningful way. She just can't. The liberal activist media right now is furious at the campaign. All of the whole thing how many times did we see with the VP debate missed opportunity when it came to Tim Walz? They thought he was going to be the bulldog. What made them think that?
I have no idea.
What made them think that?
Well, that's the entire thing, this entire surprise. That, wow, Vance was good.
Right.
He's been good since Trump picked him.
Yeah. Right. And I think I was quick to say, look, when he was picked, he has to go out and earn his own. JD Vance has to go out and earn his own. That's going to be on him to do that. He clearly has the confidence of the Trump campaign, and that's a big deal. He's going to have support from the base immediately. But in terms of going out there politically and earning it, for me, then I want to see you do that. As a surrogate, he had done it well. And as now half of the ticket, I think he's done it very, very well. And I think he's done a really, really great job. On the debate stage, I wasn't worried going into that debate. We talked about it ahead of time. We talked about how, look, he's disarmed everything you could throw at him. So I don't see them, being able to disarm him in any way. And Tim Walz sure isn't the guy to do that. I've seen nothing that indicates Tim Walz could do that.
No, be a pit bull, because you're a pit bull of what? And like I said, whether it was the still waiting for an answer for anybody on the left. Tell me one issue that Harris won against Trump.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I decided, because when I said, no, Trump won it. What do you mean he won it? Well, because I agree with him on the issues, and he promoted the issues that he believes.
Yep. Did a good job in promoting those issues.
That's the only thing I care about.
Right.
I don't know what you care about. You care about slogans? I don't know. And the same thing with Walz. What one issue did he win on? Give me one issue that he won. He didn't win on any issue.
No.
Was it an issue that he won on? And this is an election that could be the first one where imagery really isn't the most important thing if a Democrat doesn't get elected.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If Harris doesn't win.
Right.
Because imagery has been everything, to the point where Hope and Change in 2008 was complete and total imagery. There was no substance to it at all, because it was whatever you wished Hope and Change to be.
Yep.
We want hope and change.
Yep. Paint your own canvas.
Right.
People, the canvas is already painted for the American people right now. They see it. In fact, it's not a canvas. It's reality. It's not a portrait. It's not a painting. It's not an image. It's the harsh reality that you can't get away from, that they have to face every day.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. If you do look at, I think one of the most interesting polls out there is that the truly undecided that are left out there, who haven't chosen between Trump and Harris, at 45% of them, the Echelon Insights poll out there showed 45% of them do not know one position of Harris. They know Trump. They have no idea where Harris stands on the issues.
Right.
That's a problem. By the way, that doesn't get solved. Reading the article here where it says Harris and Walz rethink media-averse strategy after uneven VP debate. They're only going on friendly media. That doesn't do any good.
And it's too late, too little, too late.
Right.
Because now it looks weird. So you've been sitting it out all this time, and now, just now, you want to jump in? Why? It looks desperate.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.